So because of the way this is edited, I can already tell the time it is already, and just the sheer volume of content that I have to contribute to the subject. It's really unfortunate that I have so much personally, but I just want to let you know ahead of time that this will be filmed across at least another day, so you'll see different outfit changes, probably a scenery change or two, as I move to different rooms, different places. So I'm going to start this one by saying that this is not stuff that I love talking about. Like, I don't love discussing the bad things that have happened to me. And I even less enjoy, like, it's embarrassing. It makes you feel embarrassed and bad about yourself. It doesn't always make you feel like you don't realize until well after it's already happened that these are things that you have no real control over, that you shouldn't feel bad. And I have had an instance like that I want to share. I'm just going to tell this one really critical part of this section of events while it's on my mind. As much as I don't like talking about specific job ones, which was a good portion of my last video, I do definitely feel like there is a responsibility that women have. Okay, so I'm going to start by saying that it shouldn't fall on a woman to communicate like the shitty experiences that she's gone through, but because the men are never ever ever going to take accountability for the actions and carry through like their portion of what they've done and why their behavior and their entitlement is wrong and crazy. It's always the female's crazy, and I'm really not here for it. Like, I'm fully not here for it. The perfect example of this that I'm going to share with you is something that recently happened last summer to me, last July or so. I was at a bonfire at a friend's house, drinking and doing whatever, having beer and stuff. So it's like 10 p.m. I had gone from, like, I had had dinner with somebody at, like, Freestones, so somewhere in New Bedford. Then I went to this house party afterwards, just kicking it, like somebody who was in my pandemic pod bubble at the time. And we had all agreed, like, following the safety protocols, following whatever we were supposed to do. And, like, anyway, so I was at this party. It was probably like 10 p.m., maybe 11, when this whole situation started. So I had, a drink, or like a vodka tonic or two, I think maybe two, previously, and then I arrived at the party after, an hour or two at that, and then I went to a party. So I had, I still felt like fairly level-headed, and then I had like maybe one beer on top of that, whatever I was doing, like just hanging out, feeling like maybe a little bit buzzed, but still like relatively fine. Like, I had Ubered and I knew I felt fine. Again, in good company, good safe company. So I started getting like very out of the blue messages from somebody who I hadn't talked to in a while. There is a series of, again, TikToks about this, because I don't know if, I think it might have also been on my Facebook. This person's name and credentials were blurred when I posted them, and I've subsequently learned of like the way he's talked to other people in the past, like very recent past, either like immediately after and immediately before I posted those experiences of what he said to me, what he was like really full on like harassing. And I'm at the point where, like, I don't believe that he needs to be on blast for what he did to me, but he should absolutely be on blast for what he's done and said to other people. And that's going to be their call to make. Some of them have made that decision to already be like, this is him, this is my ex, and like, this is how he's posted and talked to me. in my phone and like put those full screenshots out. So I'm gonna speak on my events, the isolated period of like 6 or 8 hours that this all occurred during. I know it wasn't even that. It might have been, I don't know, I would say 6 hours or maybe slightly less. So I was at a party, and I started getting a series of messages. I forget where it started. I think it might have been on my TikTok direct messenger. And again, this person was somebody who I was friendly with, but hadn't had like a direct friendship with, like not in a continual way, not really. Like we had been internet friends for a long time, and then there was a period like in high school and like middle school, I think mostly middle school, where like he and I were like buddies, and like there might have been 1 or 2 periods where like he brought my books home and helped me, like, you know, the stereotypical like boyfriend that's not really your boyfriend sort of thing. So yeah, based on like the history of how long ago those things were, plus like we had been friends on socials but weren't really like actively engaging with each other, hadn't hung out, hadn't gotten coffee, like there was nothing at all in between whatsoever. So he sends me this series of messages. He's like, hey, I'm feeling really low, or whatever the first message was like, hey, can I talk to you, please? I just really need somebody to talk to. And it seemed like he was in like more of a depressive state, and like maybe I'm thinking again from based on my personal circumstances, like maybe he doesn't have anybody else he can communicate with, maybe he doesn't have a friend who's available to talk to him, and if he's in like a literal crisis mode, which I definitely have been in and I'm not afraid to share that, like I was like, okay, yeah, like sure, like I still, like he wasn't, when I knew him, was not a bad person, even over whatever, like hadn't done or said anything wrong to me in the meantime, so I was going off of like, okay, like I don't want him to feel like he's in a position where like he doesn't have anybody to talk to. So it was like, it was random but like not bad. So I stepped away. I was like, stepped away from the party I was at. I was like, hey, I'll be right back. So I forget if, I'm pretty sure I texted him my number, which again, hindsight is 2020. He then went through, he called me, which was fine, or he asked to FaceTime me, which was like, no, but like, whatever. I think I did really briefly, and then I was like, I got to the point where I was like, hey, like, I'm sorry, but hey, I'm at another party, and by the way, my phone's about to die. And whether or not that was actually true, it was really like I was trying to get off the phone because I realized very, very quickly that he wasn't in an emergency situation. He wasn't really just like looking for a friend to talk to. He was very definitely like trying to pull something at 11 p.m. And probably, it was my assumption, it was like he doesn't seem or sound okay. Like he, like over the phone, he sounded like he was either drunk or other. So I was like, hey, like, I don't, however I said it, I was trying to get off like as gracefully as I could. I was like, I don't mind chatting, but honestly, like, whatever. And he was like, well, send me the address where you're at and I'll come like hang out with you guys. And I was like, I was in my head, I was like, this is already bad. Like, I can smell how bad this was. This is stupid of me to assume whatever. Like, I really just like picked the wrong person to be nice to in the wrong moment. Because again, like, I know what it's like to feel low and not have the right person to talk to, and I certainly know what it's like to talk to the wrong person and have them take it to the nth degree and like whatever. But in this particular instance, I really was being too naive and too overly whatever. Like, I really just don't know how I could have let myself get to that point. So I quickly realized, like, he was like, oh yeah, like, where, like, what end of the city are you in? Like, don't give me the address, give me the end of the city. And I was like, this is smelling bad. Like, it's smelling worse by the second. So I hung up, and of course I walked back to the party that I was at. People were like, where were you? And I was like, I'm sorry, I was trying to get off the phone with somebody, and I don't know that I was saying it the right way, because I was already still, like, I couldn't believe what had just happened. So, and it just wasn't making any type of logical sense. So I turned my phone, like, all the way off, because I was like, this is ridiculous. He had already texted me or messaged me twice, like, since I got off the phone with him. And I was like, look, I don't want to think about my phone anymore. Like, I had some weird thing happen. After a really nice dinner with somebody, I came to a party, and, like, now I feel like my night has hit this really weird thing, and I just want to get over it and not think about it. So again, in pleasant enough company, hanging out, doing whatever. And, like, the next morning, like, I basically got back to the house, put my phone on the charger, left it off, and then at some point, like, after, like, 9 a.m. or whatever, I powered it on, and there was just this series of messages. And again, I have those receipts, they're blurred out, but they're on my, I'm not gonna pull them up right now, but they're on TikTok, they're, I think, on my Instagram Reels. I think I carried them over, like, a couple different places. Like I said, they're on my Facebook history, blurred out, if you really want to go looking through things. So those are, it's pages and pages of, like, he left me, like, no fewer than 5 voicemails. He tried to call me on Facebook Messenger. He left me Facebook messages. He left me Instagram messages, and he continued to leave me, like, TikTok DMs. And he posted, like, one of his remarks to me was like, oh, I saw you were out having a drink with somebody. And I'm like, this is not a person who I have a relationship with. This is a friend from literally ages ago that I was giving the benefit of the doubt. And, like, I'm just fully, I don't know. This is, it sucks, because, like, I would want to be in a position where I'm like, yeah, I don't have bad blood with somebody from ages ago. And, like, if you reach out to somebody after a long time, like, I hung out this year with people who I hadn't seen in 10 years, because they were, like, up in this area, and we're all, like, friends from high school. So it's not, like, that out of character for somebody to be like, hey, like, I get this random Facebook memory or random, like, whatever memory, and, like, there shouldn't be any, like, malicious whatever about it. And there just, in this case, there really was. So I learned subsequently that he does have some other issues that he's working through. Unfortunately, he took that out on somebody else. At least one other person, and I'm really sad and frustrated for those experiences that other people had. I'm really upset. He really, like, scared the living daylights out of me, because it was totally out of character and completely out of the blue. Like, I don't know what, like, it's like, well, yeah, I saw your, like, one of your posts seemed like you were depressed, and, like, he was saying this to me. I was like, yeah, like, there's nothing cheery about being in a pandemic times, and also, like, whatever. I don't know, this honestly, was this last year? I think it was. I think it was right before my Florida trip, right before my second Florida trip. Right before my first Florida trip? I would have to really, I'm trying to forget it, but also trying to get it out of my system. Like, this is a really scary thing that happened, it could have been much worse. It could have been like if I had. I don't personally, I usually don't tag a location until after I've already left. I usually don't have my Snap location on. Like, I don't do those things. Like, those things to me seem like a greater risk than reward because of the life I've lived and the people that I've known who do take advantage of those things. Like, I don't share my location with fuck all until after I've left anymore. Like, it's really just not worth it. And it continues to not be worth it. Like, tit for tat, I'm learning, like, there's fewer and fewer people worth their weight in dog shit, honestly. But it's really frustrating to say, like, in this particular instance, I received pages after pages of, like, hey, like, when can I talk to you next, or when can I take you out for, like, he was like, yeah, let's catch up over coffee, or, like, whatever, which, like, that type of thing would have been fine if there hadn't been 49 pages of, like, hey, like, I need you, or, like, something, and then one of his messages was, come snuggle me, and I was like, so, needless to say, I blocked him on all of those mediums. I blocked his phone number, I blocked his Instagram, I blocked his TikTok, I blocked his, everything that I had. And I really got, like, the shit scared out of me. Like, it was awful. Because, again, I can't stress how harmless I thought this was, and how, like, this was not a person who treated me badly ever. And, like, I don't know, it just goes to show, like, you really don't know who somebody is. Because there were a lot of people who did treat me badly at those ages. There was a boy who, like, again, people are very, very dumb, was, especially during formative, like, high school ages, like, there was a boyfriend who I had at the time, again, school-age boyfriend, who, like, I was head over heels for, like, at that time. And I forget if I think he was, like, a grade above me, or he had started to go to a different school or something. And, like, he was right around 15, 16, whatever. He had just gotten his license, so he picked me up one time. And again, somebody who, like, he had already been over the house and, like, used to ride his bike over, and, like, he had introduced himself to my mom, and he, like, knew a couple of my other friends. So it was at a point where, like, my mom was like, oh yeah, it's nice, like, go get slushies or food or whatever, and, like, come back after. And it just became, like, that was a situation that she never should have let me out the door for, ever. And what happened to me, like, that day was, like, totally appalling. It was, like, some older person who, like, again, not that much older than me. He was, like, 2 or 3 years older than me. And honestly, like, parts of, like, when I start to try and recall that night, I just see, like, red. Like, things are just black. And this is, a person who I was, again, like, relatively formative, like, head over heels for, thought they were a great human being, thought that we had, like, the nice, same sense of humor and stuff, again, at that age. And he, like, just totally took advantage of, like, the fact that my mom thought he was harmless, and, like, whatever. And then I couldn't even... This is a problem that I've had throughout my life, and it follows me to this day. Like, there's stuff that I'm still processing now because I never processed it at that time, and there's also stuff, like, I have a delayed processing. I will say, like, that I'm fine when I'm not fine, and that's, honestly, it's led to more problems than I can even account for. I have been in more and more situations that were, like, similar to that, where I'm like, yeah, things are fine, no big deal, or like, yeah, but everybody has those problems, right? And then some people, like the people that I might be talking to, or whether it's a therapist or whether it's a friend or whether it's whoever, like they'll be like, no, not everybody, like that's not a regular thing that you should expect happen. And I'm like, oh, like to me, like I always expect people to give me like the worst treatment possible for some reason. Like this is just where my baseline is. And then when I realize I deserve better, I don't deserve like ultimate baseline of like piss poor reactions. The people who have been giving me those piss poor, like bottom of the barrel reactions are things that like they'll get upset that I'm now asking to be treated better. And it's infuriating. So this is of course an extreme example of like these are things that happened to me that those two different isolated people, because it was two different people. Like it was wrong for stupid things to have happened to me at those ages, but it's also just as wrong for like people who were in my life at that time to then like pop out of the woodwork and be like, take advantage of like, oh yeah, you were always so nice and whatever and we should reconnect, and then like take it to run it through the end zone to like a different football field, like gone. And obviously, unfortunately, like if he's in a state where he does have like a substance abuse issue or something of some nature, like there's no real way to say that. And unfortunately, like as much as that's his journey to be on, like the effects that has on other people, even as isolated as mine, as small of a period of time as mine was, it was still like bone-chillingly upsetting. And then I've had people be like, well, why did you even like give him the time of day, or why did you whatever? And I was like, well, because I didn't have a reason to not do that. Like I didn't. So I'm really trying to figure out, like, I continually find myself in this problem. Like, I keep continuing to give everybody the benefit of the doubt for as long as possible, and then it's not. It literally scars me. It literally scars me. So I'm hoping, again, these are not isolated experiences. I think that because my mom was a boomer, she just really, not that there's nothing, like, not that there weren't cars and not that there weren't still stupid things going on, but like the introduction of like the internet, and obviously I didn't have this phone. I definitely had like a bar phone or a flip phone. I definitely had a flip phone first. Oh no, I had like a Nokia, like just whatever the original cell phone was, and then later on flip phones were there, and then they had the slidey ones after that. I think flips and slides I had in like middle school roughly. But because I was a latchkey kid, I had like a prepaid situation, and then I eventually graduated to like Sprint wireless or whatever we had as whatever later on in life. But like the open communication through AM, like realizing that you should realize that like your kids are talking to anybody and everybody and have like almost no restrictions. Like there really wasn't. I could correct me if I'm wrong on this if anybody's watching and knows, but like there was not any parent settings on AM or on those messengers, and you could message whoever. Like I had family in Florida and like different areas of the country where like I was messaging them and their friends, and then like their friends would message me sometimes, or like it would always like there would be lines blurred where like, okay, yes, you have a relationship with like this is a family member, but these other people are gonna treat you in like a mixed bag of ways. It's not like they're gonna treat you as well as like you don't have a relationship with them, your relationship with, it's all It's stuff that I really hope that if I get to the point where I have like a biological child at some point, like I really will 100% crack down on like electronics from scratch, everything from scratch. I really don't appreciate like a lot of the things that I'm seeing like with kids who are younger than, I don't know. I don't think anybody under the age of like 16 or 17 should be on TikTok or Snap or anything like that. Like, I think there's just so much, even with parental controls, that you just can't. I don't know. Like, I know what I was doing in middle school, and that was mostly being like, I had somebody, when I was in 8th or 7th grade, I had a high schooler who was a high school senior who was like asking me for my phone number because he was doing like extra AV stuff for drama club, and I was like, I forget what I said or how I said it, but he was, talking to me about like the shows and stuff, and he was like, oh yeah, like, you seem cool, can I have your number? And I was like, I thought that he was I think I was in 7th grade, because I remember him saying like he was about to graduate. I was like, oh, you're about to graduate from here? And he was like, no, I'm about to graduate like from high school, like from either New Bedford High or Vogue. And then I realized, I was like, that's definitely not what's up for me. And that's definitely, it could have been a different situation. Like, I could have said like yes, and then had like a bigger, much more significant problem on my hands. It's just so easy to fall into stuff like that. And then like once you get to high school, there's sexual assault that happens on the school bus, and there are people who you'll talk to about it and be like, well, that's the only school bus that goes to that area, so there's really not another bus we can put that person on. And I'm like, really? Like, I don't know. Again, it's stuff that like I shouldn't be inconvenienced just because there isn't another, other than like, what are we gonna do? We'll just make sure he doesn't sit next to you. But like, that then falls on like a bus driver responsibility, and bus drivers give as many shits as honey badgers do. Like, they don't get paid enough to do anything extra or additional, and it's just, there's no way that the things that happened to me should have happened. Like, there just isn't. Like, the great number of like house parties I went to that I shouldn't have, or like, I don't know. And it's not even like you shouldn't be able to go and socialize. It's like there's this constant chronic issue of like people growing up too fast, and obviously like there's a significant part of like, even when you're 18 and 19, your brain is not fully developed. Like, you shouldn't be able to make adult decisions at those ages either. So, I'm gonna end this clip here, and I'm gonna put some more notes together, so hopefully I can make a shorter than 2-hour video tomorrow.